Hi guys, this is Sam Mall for SAP Career and Job Seekers Group. Today we're going to talk about what do you mean by a best practice. What is a best practice? So the best practice is a standard step by step. It's a sequence of events which a business undertakes in order to have a meaningful business objective, right? And the best practice will differ from area to area within the business. We'll have the sales best practice, we'll have the procurement or the supply chain best practice, we'll have the warehouse management best practice. Some of them are linked to what we call as SOP, standard operating procedures. However, the best practices go a little bit beyond the SOP. SOPs are part of the best practice. So there'll be sales, there'll be procurement, there'll be production planning, shop floor best practices and SOPs. There would be project systems, human resource, hire to retire, best practice, and there would be other areas which are industry specialized. In each industry, you'll have a best practice. Now, the industry specific best practices really focus on the compliance and the unique needs and niche of that business. For example, if you're in public sector, you have collection and disbursement. Public sector doesn't have sales and procurement. They have collection and disbursements. Don't have receivable and payable. So they collect taxes and they disburse benefits. So that's the uniqueness. If you are in the utility sector, then what they would have what we call as the contract accounting, because they do what we call as conversion invoicing. They read meters which deliver either water or electricity to your home. So their best practices are different. Let's look at one example of what a best practice looks like. So in a sales process, a best practice will have initially a request for quotation by a client, right? You will submit the quotation, they will have vendor qualification, and then once the vendor qualification, you will have negotiation, and then you'll get what we call as a purchase order from the client. Now the purchase order, you internally create a sales order for that, right? Once you have created the sales order, you will actually identify if you have goods in stock or you have to buy that product from outside or source it out. But after the sales order, there will be a delivery order. So delivery order is for the freight forwarder or the person who's going to deliver the product. And then there's a goods issue. So when the person goes to pick up, they do a goods issue, right? So again, we have request for quotation, we have a purchase order from the client, you create a sales order in the system, you create a delivery order, you create a goods issue, and then once the goods issue is done, sometimes we have something called the proof of delivery. So you get a proof of delivery which generates an invoice, and then once the invoice is there, we move to payment, right? So that's a best practices for the sales process. Once the payment is done, then it settles into the income expense statement, right? I'll quickly write this down so that you understand. And this is called order to cash cycle. So we have procure to pay cycle, order to cash cycle, hire to retire cycle. So each business area has its own best practice, right? And we throw in a loop of industry specialization in that best practice, right? So you will have a best practice for generic areas and you will have an industry specific best practice. But let's just document one best practice, which is the sales process. So the sales process. So you get a request for quotation from the client. You do a proposal. Then client gives you a purchase order. You get a purchase order from the client. You create a sales order. Sales order creates a delivery order. Delivery order creates a goods issue. Then I can do a POD, proof of delivery, invoice, payment, and then settlement to my income and expense statements, right? So this is called order to cash cycle, right? Now, this might be different for a retail company, it might be different for a banking industry, it might be different for a pharmaceutical company, because pharmaceutical companies, you get prescriptions and medicines. In a bank, the product is more like a mortgage. But generically, this is the generic best practice. Now, there might be SOPs, standard operating procedures. So how do you handle deliveries, right? There might be SOP for, how do you generate your invoice, right? So the standard operating procedure, the subset of a best practice, right? But best practices are important for you to learn. In order to specialize in any job, any industry, you need to be comfortable with the best practice, right? So there you go, guys. That's a summarized version of what a best practice is. We will cover more and more topics as we go. And this is Sam Mall for SAP Careers and Job Seekers Group. Please like and subscribe, and let's continue this journey to excellence. There'll be many topics, and I do not study this topic. It comes all from my experience. It's all practical knowledge. It's not a book knowledge, right? So there's no preparation I do for this video, just to let you know. So I look forward to talk to you again. Thank you, guys. Sam All signing off.